Welcome to this video conference for the MOOC Digital Culture by Unow. My name is Mimi and I am a project manager at Unow. Here with me today is Barbara Alger, which is our digital learning specialist. And during the upcoming hour, we will go through topics treated in different modules of the MOOC, as well as answer your questions. And so please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask them immediately in the chat forum on YouTube, and we will try to answer immediately. So in this MOOC, we have many participants from all over the world. I hope you're here with us today, and you have a lot of different profiles. One of the concerns that keeps coming up in the forums is I need to keep up to date. Barbara, can you please address this?
Hello, so Barbara, I'm back again. Barbara Alger, Digital Learning Specialist, for those who don't know me yet. Right, yeah, Mimi, in this MOOC, we have a very varied public, don't we? Yeah? We got marketing specialists, journalists, writers, programmers, graphic designers. But we have participants in this course who are working in tourism, in travel, hospitality, government, NGOs, and social media, Red Cross, and among us also are academic researchers, students, and teachers. So that's pretty broad. And I agree, Mimi. I really agree that the comments online do reflect what you were saying. There's a sense of urgency. Everybody thinks this is a must. I've got to get my digital skills up. Well, yeah, it's a brave new world, isn't it? And we've got to be brave. So, yeah. Personally, now I'm in education, so I've seen all kinds of things happen in education in the digital world. About 10 years ago, my son came home from university. He was abroad, and he said, "Mom, Google is your friend." I said, "Oh, well, basically what he was trying to tell me was that you better get up to snuff, Mom, because today's world is different." So yeah, he was spot on, and I learned, and education certainly has tremendously changed in 10 years. You know, I went from giving face-to-face classes using all these old-fashioned things like CDs and big tapes and video cassettes and paper, you know, things that come from trees. And then we moved. We moved into running classes online. I'm, moderating forums. I'm making my videos for my classes with the class content. But also, I have to learn to evaluate the sources that my students are using. Okay, it's very easy now to detect plagiarism. That's one thing that's absolutely much easier. But what's really difficult is to evaluate the credibility of the sources. And I think we're all in that boat today. We have to just keep working at it.
Yeah, probably. And I mean, you're talking about how education has changed with the digital revolution, right? And I mean, this MOOC, this training, I think is a very good example of it, because the participants are finding themselves taking an online course, right, instead of the classical university class. Or I mean, this isn't a university class, but still, it's a proof of the digital revolution and its influence on the topic of education. But Barbara, has the face-to-face classes changed as well? The ones that are still, present?
Yeah, they've changed a lot too. And notably because since a lot of the content is online in classes, we concentrate more on learning by doing, on brainstorming. Yeah, it's a lot of, it's a different way of learning. It's blended. So we take advantage of the time that we're together to really learn and have a lot of class participation. And also, we also have tools, We have tools. We got the interactive whiteboard, to work with that, and use videos. And when nobody has the answer, well, we just look it up. We don't wait for the next session. Yeah. And you know what else I use in class? Robots. Yeah. Robots. Well, yeah. One time there was this student who had a back problem, and she was put up for a month. No, for an entire semester. She couldn't come to class. So the school organized that she come as a robot. So there she is, laying in her bed with her remote control, and she's attending every one of my classes. And so what do we have? We have this rolling thing, this contraption coming into class with a big screen with her face on it, and going all around, and she's having conversations with the students, and she can come up to me at the end of class, to the desk, and ask a question to the teacher. And you know what she even did? She even made a oral presentation in front of the entire class as a robot. So I mean, you know, it really changes. In sum, basically, what's happening is teachers are going from being the specialist, the one who knows everything, to simply being the guide. So I'm more what they call, instead of a sage on stage, I'm a guide on the side. Because the students, they can have access to all the information they want, all the knowledge they want. So I'm there to encourage them to go out and exploit this knowledge, to combine it with something that's already in their mind, so that they can advance.
Yeah, and what about the tools that the student use? I mean, have they changed as well?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I don't know when you went to school, Mimi, but right now, when you walk into a classroom, you come up to a wall of Macs. Just a wall. So it's a challenge for every single professor today. Maybe not in elementary schools, but in higher education. And that is for me, myself, and the students, because you have to give them responsibility, to evaluate when is it appropriate to have my Mac open, and when should I just be in the present moment and not be fiddling through. And that's a challenge. Well, let's see what else. Well, one of the schools I work in, one summer, they changed the entire library. So we come back in September, and there are no books. No books. No, nothing that comes from trees, you know. So everything it's a digital library right now. And now also you hear about elementary schools, high schools, where each student has a tablet. They hand them out. And so instead of having those super heavy backpacks, the students come back with a 1.5 pound tablet, and there they are. That's everything is in the tablet that they need to do. So yeah, things are really changing now. But you know, that's for almost every job. Almost every single job. Even my translation business, when I do translations, that's changed. You know, with Google Translate, with spell check, et cetera, et cetera. Although, I mean, they do a halfway decent job, but I still believe, in my humble opinion, that to make a really good translation, you need a real person who knows the language. But still, they're great tools. And in other jobs, well, maybe like for the exception of perhaps if you're a baker or you're a craftsperson or, you know, you're a caretaker, it's not so important to you know, the digital revolution. But even there, for administrative purposes, for ordering supplies, they're using digital means. So almost every single business now is affected by the digital revolution. And we go over that in this course. I mean, we go over it a lot. I mean, we say with banks with fintech and crowdfunding, transportation with Uber, lodging with Airbnb, press with online journalism, travel agents 24/7. We always expect to be able to order our ticket anytime we want. Sales with online realtors, retailers. I mean, the list of changes is endless, and we can't say it enough. The digital technology has just radically changed our lives. Just radically.
Yeah, that's very true. So, I mean, basically, Barbara, you're saying that we have an obligation to keep up to date and to follow the evolution and to keep learning, basically.
Yeah, basically, huh? Yeah, basically. That's the deal, Mimi. There's a really short half-life to all the software. So, you know, employees, they complain constantly, oh my God, we have a new system that we have to learn. Well, okay, fine, we always have to learn. Let's just be calm and get used to it. I tell my students when they come to class in school, I say, you know, what we're teaching you today is not for your job necessarily. What we're teaching you is to be curious and to want to continue learning. Because whatever occupation you're being trained for today, in 20 years, as you've explained, that might not exist. And you're going to have to constantly readapt and obtain new skills. Huh? So it's, basically we just need a good level of confidence. A good level of confidence, and then it's all easier. If I was an employee in a company and they handed me a new software, well, okay, if I had this approach, why don't I just look at this like a kid, like a child? A child is going to play around, and if I click here, what's going to happen? It's not going to blow up on me or anything. So it's a question of playing around and having a curious attitude, and then maybe even it's a question of humility. To understand that we don't know everything, and that maybe, for example, we could simply go and ask one of our colleagues, be it the new intern who just took a class in digital marketing or something, and ask them, hey, how does this work? I mean, for an old person, that might be a big step. But what the heck, huh? We're all learning.
That's true. Should we go on to the topic of the first week of this MOOC?
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, what did we talk about in Module 1? We had a lot of things, huh? One of them was how to get organized in the digital world, huh?
Yeah.
How do you manage your time in the digital world? I don't know, Mimi, what do you have to say about this? You want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, being able to manage your time today in a world where basically even you have internet connection even during some flights, it makes it super, super important to reduce our digital disturbance points to a maximum to avoid what we call hyper connectivity. And there are studies that shows that after just seeing a notification, typically on your phone, it can be from, you just received an email or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. Just after seeing the notification, your brain needs 64 seconds to regain the concentration that you lost. Just seeing that there was a notification, which is
64 seconds.
64 seconds, so 1 minute of lost concentration just because you saw the notification. And I mean, we can all count, I mean, we're not going to do so, but we could count the numbers of emails and different notifications we would receive during one day, and basically we wouldn't have any more time to work, right? So I think managing your organization in the digital world is essential to be actually able to be a part of it in a well-functioning way, because, and I mean, in the end, we don't have a choice now, do we? We have to be a part of it, right? We call it a digital world, but I think in a couple of years, we're just going to call it the world because it is digital. So in my personal, with my personal experience, what I did when I heard about these this last minute, every time you saw a notification, I just removed them actually from my phone. I disabled all notifications, and I was pretty surprised about the result. I mean, I felt actually a lot better. Obviously, if you're waiting for an important email, then it's disturbing, and you will check your email 50 times a day because you want to check if you receive the email. But just knowing that that you don't have to think of these notifications, you don't have to treat them. It makes you, it makes me at least much more concentrated on my work. So it's really important. And I think again, to be able to work in this digital world, you have to find some sort of learning or working environment that works for yourself. And it's probably going to be different from I mean, my way of doing it will be different from yours, etc., etc. But it is really important to create this good environment and to stay, for instance, in a working environment, to stay accessible for your colleagues, yet to have the possibility to be completely concentrated on what you're doing without being disturbed. And here at work, for instance, we're using Slack, which is the collaborative communicative, it's a tool for collaborative communication, which is really convenient because it makes us all able to write each other messages, but I don't have to I can turn off the notifications. And then if someone wants to contact me and it's really, really important, they can do a manipulation with their message so that I still get the notification, because it's actually something that I have to deal with straight away. But it's convenient, as you can make yourself unavailable. A bit like in hotels, you know, where you would put that little sign on the door saying that you're working or you're sleeping.
Sure. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
It's pretty much the same thing. And so also in the first week of this MOOC, the participants, they made a digital lexicon. So I suggest that we go over a few vocabulary words. Are you okay with that, Barbara?
Well, okay, let's do it. Digital lexicon. Okay. Maybe you go first then, all right? I'm going to give you one.
Okay.
Define business incubator.
A business incubator. So a business incubator, it's a structure that will help startups develop their business model. It might be an internal incubator where a company, for instance, the French railway company called SNCF, they allow internal projects to be developed as if it was a startup inside their company. This is also called intrapreneurship. But the second and the more common model of a business incubator is when a company like SNCF or like Google or Facebook or whatever big company, basically, they help external startups developing their business model with help from the company. And now it's your turn, Barbara. Can you please define?
Okay, what are you going to give me?
Design thinking.
Okay. Design thinking. What is it? Well, it's basically a methodology, and it focuses on the needs of the users. That's the important aspect there. It's got several steps. Most people say it has 5 steps, but like IBM, they've made one with I think 7 steps. But I'm just going to explain the simple 5-step one. The first one is to empathize with the stakeholders, find out exactly what they want, what they need. And then second, you analyze the needs, you interpret and analyze them. And then following that is called the ideate step. And that's kind of like the creative part where you think out of the box, where you do brainstorming and you try to, what could we do? What could we do for this thing? And so that's the first 3 steps. And then the last step of design thinking, are building a prototype. That is something that's really physical, tangible. And the last step is testing it, so you can fine-tune your prototype. So basically, it has 5 steps. But then the whole process is cyclical and it's dynamic. So when you're maybe at step 3, you can go all the way back to step 1. And again, try to see what the users need. And so you can go back and forth to each of these steps. It's a kind of a round circle-y type thing. And well, many companies and businesses, they use this methodology or an adaptation of this methodology. Okay, that's it for design thinking. What do you want? Mimi, what do you want to define?
I thought...
One?
Sorry?
You want me to just give you one?
Yeah, you can just give me one.
Freelancing.
Freelancing, okay. I think freelancing is something that our participants, some of them at least, they already have some knowledge on the topic, because we saw in the forum for presentations that some of you presented yourself as freelancers. But
that's right.
It's an important part of the digital world, so I'm still going to explain it. So basically, when you're a freelancer, it means that you're working on a contract basis for a company, or for actually several companies at the same time, as opposed to working as an employee for a single company. So freelancers, they will often be self-employed and have the freedom to choose their projects and the companies they would like to be associated with. With that being said, obviously, as a freelancer, I mean, yes, you have the choice to choose, but sometimes because of financial reasons, you don't really have the choice. You have to say yes to everything that's being offered for you. Another particularity with freelancers is that quite often, or most of the time, they work either from their home, so they have a home office, or they work maybe on co-working cafes or co-working spaces. At least they don't share their office with the company for who they're working for. And for some professions, being a freelancer is quite common. So that would concern the journalists, the writers, the photographs, the graphists, for instance. But then again, there are other jobs, such as when you're a teacher. We could assume that it's not so likely that a teacher ever will become a freelancer, just because they don't have the same freedom, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then one last word for you, Barbara. I would like you to give us your definition of what is open innovation.
Open innovation.
Well.
All right. Well, open innovation is where the boundaries between a company or an organization and its environment have become permeable. So yeah, there's a transfer of information between structures, basically. Henry Tesbrew said in a Forbes article, a recent Forbes article, 2 facets to open innovation. One is the outside-in aspect, where external ideas and technology are brought into the firm's own innovation process. And the other aspect is the inside-out part. And that is the one we don't talk about so much, but it's where underutilized ideas and technologies in a firm are then allowed to go outside to be incorporated into others' innovation processes, okay? Now, the example that we give in the videos is Tesla, well, one of the examples. Elon Musk said, and I quote, "Tesla Corporation has now open sourced all its patents to the global marketplace." Curious, huh? Why would Tesla just give away its intellectual property? That's what we're asking ourselves. Well, the answer is because by sharing its patents, other manufacturers will be able to build cars, more electric cars, and that contributes to building the necessary infrastructure of charging stations, because we need charging stations all over in order to have electric cars go freely. So now, Philip Silberzahn, he's the expert on this, and he's a professor of innovation, and he says in his book, Disruptive Innovation, about Tesla, by practicing the spirit of openness, Tesla created the possibility of expanding the overall market volume, and therefore Tesla would be able to sell more. Tesla decided that it would rather have 50% of a market of 1 million vehicles a year, rather than 100% of a market that has tens of thousands of vehicles. So Tesla is expanding its market by opening its technology. Is that good enough?
That's good enough. Thank you very much, Barbara. Let's go over to the second module of this MOOC.
Okay.
And in this second week, we talked about searching, sorting, and sharing information. However, today, there is quite a bit of buzz about fake news. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. And how can we sort through this fake news? I mean, how can users be better tuned into reliability of news that they read? For example, there's been a lot of talk recently about the use of the online bots and trolls to influence elections in various countries, typically in America. Can you talk briefly about this?
Yeah, okay. Right. Now, influencing elections, one country influencing election of another country is absolutely nothing new in the geopolitical world, okay? This happens. Now, what is new is, well, the use of, internet to do so. That's digital technology, social media, and fake news. Today, anybody can publish anything, right? And some sites they even mimic real publishers by just adding on 3 letters to ABC News, for example. People think they're reading ABC News or watching it, but really not. It's a fake site. And So anybody with money to burn, well, they can just go to these people who do these things, and they can buy likes, they can buy followers, and yeah, they can get retweets, for example. You just buy them. Now there's a market for that. So and actually, you know, the candidates themselves, they even use social media. I mean, Donald Trump. There's a Financial Times article just yesterday, I think, the day before anyway, where he interviewed Donald Trump, where he says, "Without Twitter, I would not be here." So he recognizes that Twitter was, you know, a part of his rise. So okay, so a lot of people are talking about these bot farms, right? And we'll get back to your real question, and how they're working on Facebook and Twitter, and they're influencing elections. And this has happened. I mean, it's been documented in the Philippines, in Mexico, and of course, everybody's talking about the United States today. Also in France, the election that's coming up in May, people are a little bit worried about that, the influence of online fake news in May 2017. So what do the big social media companies think about this? Well, I mean, basically, you know, Facebook and Twitter, etc., Instagram, they really want to have as many users as they possibly can, right? So even a bot is okay, that brings them money. So, but anyway, sometimes they crack down. Sometimes they get their police going, and they crack down on them. So how do they do it? Is they create algorithms in order to search out which ones are the bots. But then what happens? The bot farms, they simply catch up. They quickly try to find out the algorithm, and then they better their bots. They better these little online accounts. So for example, on Twitter, you used to have the egg on Twitter. It's just been taken off, and everybody made a big deal about it. But anyway, the egg was symbolic of a bot because nobody put their picture. There's no description underneath. And so now the bot farms have gotten smart, and they end up putting pictures of pretty people, and they put descriptions. They even copy descriptions of other live people, and they try to make profiles that are actually credible, so that the algorithms that the social media use, for example here Twitter, to find the bots is having more difficulty doing it. And then another thing that they're doing is using artificial intelligence. Yeah, artificial intelligence to make answers. So, and they make a fortune in this business. They really do. It's a weird algorithm arms race, basically. Each one is trying to figure out how to outwit the other. So, what do we do about it? You know, for your average social media user, I think really the answer is just to be vigilant. Always check your sources, basically. And maybe also, if you're somebody who uses social media a lot, and you have a tendency to get upset because you're talking with a troll, and this troll is saying everything you disagree with, and you're getting your emotions hot, well, take a distance, because there is a possibility that that troll that you're talking with is actually a bot. Artificial intelligence. So you are really talking to nobody. I mean, okay, yeah, there's a bot farmer way behind who's programmed this thing, but don't get too upset. Get a distance and have a healthy sense of humor. I mean, okay, it's happening. We just got to deal with it.
But it's funny what you're saying at the end about, or what you just said about realizing that you're talking to an artificial intelligence and not actually being. I just read this article the other day about a university in America where the teacher had used an artificial intelligence as a teaching assistant, but just online. And the students, they actually had spent an entire year asking this artificial intelligence questions. And it was at the end of the very end of the year that the professor told this to its students. And well, they were all quite surprised to learn that they had been communicating quite a lot with an artificial intelligence and not their actual teacher, or not a real teaching assistant, for one long year.
That's amazing.
Something that's happening more and more, definitely.
Yeah, well, all the customer service representatives, I mean, not all, but very often when you're talking to, say, the customer service representative, George, from your telecom company, and you're talking online, well, at the beginning, very often, that's all just artificial intelligence. You're talking to, I mean, we're all Sims in a way, huh? We're all like Sims in the Sim, game, huh? For those who actually know that game, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. In the next module, in the third module.
On to module 3, okay.
Yes. Here we talk a bit about collaborative work. And the example of Wikipedia comes up several times in the videos. Could you talk a bit about Wikipedia as a collaborative tool?
Yeah. We talk about Wikipedia a lot. I mean, because it's a fabulous example of collaboration online, huh? But now, okay, as an academic, teachers and professors, they often say, do not use Wikipedia as a reference. That's their gold standard, huh? And in general, of course, that's really good policy, Mimi, but the thing is, in many fields, Wikipedia articles have actually been found to be 80 to 90% accurate when you compare them to textbooks, actual textbooks on those subjects. Now, okay, obviously that doesn't count for things like politics and religion, very controversial parts of Wikipedia, and they're very contentious, and people are always correcting them and fixing them. But overall, there's much less fake news on Wikipedia than on Facebook, for example. I mean, much less. Because there's this army of volunteer editors, and they're on there verifying the facts, and they do this for fun. They do this on their weekends, their hobbies, and
Yeah.
But okay, let's go back to the average internet user. What can we do with Wikipedia? I mean, how should we use it? Here's some suggestions. Basically, using Wikipedia as your starting point is very, very good. It's good practice. You get the overall picture, and then you can go on with your research. A user can also use, they can look at the number of edits on that article. And the number of edits sometimes tells you how controversial it is. Or is it a settled article? Or is it one that people are constantly debating on? And you can learn things from their debates, too. Another thing is you can verify, or you can look to see if there's a little green plus inside of a circle up on the right-hand side of the article. And that tells you that Wikipedia has noted that as a good article. And of course, the golden rule is go ahead and verify the sources of the Wikipedia article. Sometimes you won't find them all because they're protected or you have to pay for them. But if you really want them, check the citations at the bottom of the page and go there and read the original sources and see if you agree with them. And then, okay, just keep in mind, Wikipedia says it themselves on the site. They say, use your judgment. Remember, all sources need to be evaluated. So there we are again, is judgment, our own judgment.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's sort of a key element to everything that goes with the digital revolution, right? With what you just said about fake news and
what you said about trying to figure out what's the best way I can manipulate to all the pop-ups and all the messages, etc. And you said we give it right back to the people. You say you've got to figure this out yourself. You have confidence, you can do it.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go to another couple of other topics. So in this week's module that just yesterday actually, you're talking about several topics such as disruptive innovation, the great debate around everything that is big data and our personal data, as well as the future of occupations, the future of work. And let's start with disruptive innovation, if you want to say something about
innovation. Well, basically, we got to get Philippe Sebarzan's MOOC translated into English here, huh? Because he's the specialist on this. Disruptive innovation in a nutshell, then, okay? That's what we're going to do here. Is an innovation that creates a new market and a new value network, and it eventually disrupts an existing market and value network. and that displaces established market leaders. What does that all mean? Okay. Outsiders and entrepreneurs, they often create disruptive innovations. Why? Well, they do it rather than large corporations, because a disruptive innovation is often in competition with the traditional high-selling products of a large company. Now let's look at this simply. If we look at the case of Kodak again. Since Kodak's film business was doing very well, Kodak just twiddled its thumbs. They knew that the disruption was coming, but they twiddled their thumbs and they made the decision to keep developing their traditional business line. Meanwhile, digital photography, this disruptive innovation, just took off. It just took off. And we all know what happened. Kodak ended up filing for Chapter 11. So in that case, it's the young startup entrepreneurs who are trying out new things. It's more risky. They do it, they succeed, and end up toppling the established leader of a product that is similar, but not disruptive. No. I guess that's it for today, huh? If you want to know more, you have to read Philippe Zilbazan's book on disruptive innovation.
Exactly. I think we're going to have to ask him to translate it to English, like you said. So you also talked about the great debate, what you call it.
Yeah, the great debate.
You know, to whom belongs our data? Because the thing is that each second we spend on the internet, we leave traces. We leave traces that tells someone what we do and how we do it and how much time we spend doing it. And you know, does this data, does it belong to the one who generated it, or to the companies, or to a government? And I hear there has been some very recent development in this area in the States. If you can tell us something a bit about that.
Yeah, no, you're very right. All those traces, they call breadcrumbs, that we leave everywhere. People can aggregate and know lots of things about us. Huh? Yeah, okay, so just to add a little something that happened in the United States, just yesterday actually, was that the trending topic is that President Trump signed Resolution 34, which reverses the rules that were passed last year that would have, among other things, provided strong protections against internet providers collecting and selling your browsing history. So right now, the situation is far from clear. Far from clear. In the United States, what the FCC, or the Federal Communications Commission, does is basically it tries to interpret a law. And this law is the Telecom Act of 1934. And it tries to apply this law to modern technologies like wireless internet and broadband. Huh? A bit difficult, huh? So yeah. How the FCC plans to interpret and enforce the laws now on internet privacy, they're really not clear. But what is clear is the message. The message is the administration is opening the door to far more aggressive data sharing. So that means internet service providers, as we've seen, ISPs, can now sell your browsing habits to advertisers without your permission. In other words, ISPs, they are going to be able to do exactly what Facebook can do already, which is interesting. So anyway, in progress.
But there are, aren't there something we can do to avoid this though? I mean, using cookies, do you know anything about it?
Well, I mean, you can go, anonymous, what do they call that, using Tor or something?
Yeah, you can.
The thing is that all you do is you don't get advertisement, but I do believe they can still pick up your traces.
Yeah, because I thought that, because I did that sometimes because I was fed up with publishment every time I went on some website, and I would delete all my cookies, right? Because the cookies, that is basically the trace that you're leaving on the different websites.
I'm not sure if you delete your cookies, if they've deleted their cookies. your cookies. I'm not sure. I don't really know.
But I think
What I do know is that ISP providers, your ISP depends on where you are. Okay, so you can be in Paris, and then you can be in New York, and your ISP changes, right?
Yeah.
So they only have what you do in one spot, if I've understood correctly. Whereas Facebook and Google, they actually have a much more comprehensive view of where we're going. They can pick up all kinds of traces that then they can aggregate to actually find out who we are, what we're going to buy, etc.
Yeah.
I don't know about the cookies, but you can try.
I will, I think.
I'd like to eat a chocolate chip cookie. It's better.
So I think we have one last topic, which is
Let's do it. How about you talk about this one? Huh?
Yeah, okay.
How about, because we talked about the future of occupations in the videos, and you know, all that's going to be happening there. And what do you think, Mimi? Are you and I going to have this job in 20 years, or are we going to be out of the job too and have to get new skills? Huh? I don't know. So,
Well, I mean, I think that's I don't think anyone really has the answer to neither whether we're gonna have the same job or what the job market will look like in just 20 years, which is basically not a long time. But you know, we have already headed into what is considered to be the fourth industrial revolution, right? And the World Economic Forum published an analysis not so long ago on the technological and sociological drivers of employment and its future. And the report was called The Future of Jobs. And basically it states an accelerating impact on technology on global employment trends. And it definitely stresses the socioeconomic drivers such as changes in the work environment, basically saying that we will need to be more flexible, to do more on-demand work, etc. And in this MOOC, we have seen that that models that are collaborative, so it's collaborative work, we're using collaborative tools, etc., etc. They're getting more and more important. And it is likely to believe that while obviously it's very difficult to imagine exactly what the future of jobs will look like, we can already see some tendencies, right? And when it comes to skills that will be needed in the future, you said so at the introduction of this video conference with your students that obviously as a teacher you are teaching them knowledge, but more than teaching them knowledge, you're trying to teach them certain skills, which is to be curious and to be interested in continuing to learn. And I think definitely we see the need of being able to be flexible and to acquire knowledge in a quite efficient way. And you know, we can see generations two generations behind mine or your own, you know, where people, they would maybe not take education and they would start to work on an early age and stay in that position for many years after that. Whereas you know, generations of young workers today who just got out of college or university, they are going to stay in each job for 2 or 3 years. And as a child, which is not that many years ago, I was certain that you went to school to take an education and you would work as that thing for the rest of your life, which basically isn't true anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tendency that's going to just become stronger and stronger. And so it's very difficult to foresee what, like I said, what jobs we will have in the future, and also what skills we will need. But I think we can be quite certain when we can say that, you know, sort of human capacities such as communication skills and collaborative skills will be more and more important as we will spend more and more time in front of a computer and not necessarily with our colleagues communicating face to face, for instance. And I also think that technical skills, like purely technical skills, such as understanding how a computer works and its language, also, you know, how is a computer actually built? Being able to code, for instance, I think these things will be necessary. Is difficult to say, but at least important. And you know, this is also the reason why in some schools already today, children from the very age of 6 years old, they're actually learning to code. They're learning the different code languages at the same time that they're learning English and mathematics, which shows, I think, a quite radical revolution in how we perceive the future for these children. And so, again, as I said, I think that while the majority of the elements that will form the future of jobs, they are uncertain, one thing isn't. So we can be sure that the way we work and how the way we work and what we do will change. And one of the most important skills will be to be able to understand this world that's becoming more and more digital, and above all, being able to acquire new knowledge and skills in an efficient manner.
Yeah, you mentioned about small children learning how to code, huh? Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
You know what, I mean, this is just a side thing, but I've heard about some schools that now in kindergarten, so kids are like 5 years old, instead of starting to learn how to handwrite, to print and then handwrite, they're learning how to touch type. Without having to look at the keyboard, they're learning how to touch type. And the handwriting comes much later. So actually their handwriting is much worse than people who had to learn handwriting in order to communicate. Huh?
Yeah.
Touch typing, and I guess that will be useful for them.
Yeah, it is, but this example is very interesting. I mean, I also read an article about Chinese children, because they when they are 7 years old, they're supposed to, or an average 7-year-old Chinese child has learned a decent amount of science. And the problem is that the children of today, studies shows that when this child reaches 9 years old, they've forgotten half of the signs, because they don't write them anymore. Oh. And to learn these signs, they are so complicated that you need to write them with your hand, and not to use them on a keyboard to actually learn them. There are also studies that shows, for instance, that as a student you learn much better when you are taking notes by hand instead of taking notes by computer. So all these things are really, really changing the way we are learning, but to some extent also how our brain works.
Yeah.
And this is extremely interesting, and I think this is also why keeping up with the digital world is so important, because pretty soon there will come a time when we will really realize to what extent not only it's revolutionizing our lives on all these different aspects, but how it can also be not necessarily dangerous, but at least how it changes quite a lot of things on, you know, the way our brain works and the way our body is put together. And some people say that in I don't know, 300 years we won't have a thumb anymore because we don't need it, or we won't have this finger anymore because we won't need it. I mean, it's quite impressive actually what is about to happen. Although obviously this is not something that's going to happen from today until tomorrow, but
not in our lifetime.
But it's interesting. Let's switch to talk about something fun. So Barbara,
our last topic then, huh?
Sorry?
This will be our last topic?
Yes, our very last topic, unless we have questions from our participants. What have the digital technologies done for the dating scene?
No, dating scene?
Dating scene.
Well, okay, yeah. First of all, finding your partner online, it's less stigmatized today than it was, say, 10 years ago. Huh? I mean, people used to think, oh, they would hide it if they got a date with somebody, they found them online, because, wow, you should have a social network. That means that you're nobody, right? And today, it's much more accepted. much more accepted. I think that there was a research done by Pew Research in America, that 15% of adults in the US have used dating sites. So that's quite a few, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, you think the people who are married are not using them. Well, not always, but so I think, yeah. So I don't know what that makes out of people who are available. Anyway, let's go over. Let's not get into that one. And I think 5% of Americans who are married or they're in a committed relationship, well, they found their significant other online. So, I mean, digital technologies, that's cool. That's definitely a cool thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a natural evolution of what is happening with the new digital age, pretty much. And yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. People are finding each other. I mean, we're spending so much time in front of our computers anyway, so if you can,
Why not? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, why not? So I think this was our last topic, ending the video conference on a sort of
Okay.
lighter topic. Unless there's something that you want to say, Barbara.
Oh, it's been fun. Participants, if you have any comments whatsoever on what we said, or if you want to go research a topic and go a little bit farther, like for example on those cookies, go ahead and add comments to this YouTube video, add comments online in our course online, and we'll be delighted to hear with you and learn with you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the video conference. And like Barbara said, really don't hesitate asking your questions in the forums. We are there to answer, or you can answer each other's questions or remarks if you feel like it. I mean, this week is also the last one with new published information on this MOOC. So we hope that you are enjoying the training. And hope to see you soon on another one. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.